The newest release of Bun changes things a lot. It's no longer just a competitor to Node and Dino. It's now a competitor to bundlers like Vite, ESBuild, Webpack, and more. And it's not your traditional competitor either. It's very interesting. Don't be misled by the small number bump. Going from 1.1 to 1.2 might not mean a lot for most projects, but for Bun, it means things are changing in a very, very important way. I'm super excited to go through these changes with you and build a full stack app from scratch with just Bun and no other tools. But first, we need a quick word from today's sponsor. Hi, you. Yes, you. You're a developer, right? That means that there's a 90% chance you hate GitHub. Yeah, it's not a great platform. It lags, it crashes, it's miserable to get code reviews done. If somebody merges the wrong PR, all the others break. None of that is Git's fault. Most of it is GitHub's. What if it didn't suck so much, though? That's the question that today's sponsor, Graphite, asked themselves, and the result is unbelievable. I know they say AI here, but listen, the AI is just one of the many things that makes Graphite really, really good. It's built on top of GitHub, so you're not leaving GitHub behind. It's a new UI and layer on top. The biggest thing they introduce is a stacked diff workflow. It's a fundamental change from how commits and pull requests work traditionally. It lets you split your changes up into individual parts that get reviewed, can be swapped out in between, and once the whole stack is approved, it all gets merged together. It lets you go off on your own and make additional changes without being blocked by something else that isn't approved yet. It makes shipping fast unbelievably easy. And I'm not the only one here to tell you this. Everyone from Vercel to Arc to Warp to Mercury to Ramp and so many other companies are all in on Graphite because the workflow is incredible. There's a reason Facebook invented this workflow. Git isn't good enough when you're shipping fast with a decent sized team. But fine, I'll tell you about the AI stuff really quick. They have a new AI code reviewer and a lot of cool features coming alongside it, including the ability to automatically split up large pull requests, which is going to be so handy. Your team deserves a better experience with GitHub. If you want the best possible UI for code reviews, a stacked diff workflow that keeps you from blocking people, as well as a code reviewer that actually knows the context of your code base, pretty hard to beat these guys. Check them out today at soydev.link/graphite. Let's dive in, because I am genuinely very excited about this. They did another one of their fancy announcement videos. Go check it out if you're interested. But this isn't the place for scripted, well-planned content. This is where I just share my thoughts and what is interesting about a project. If you want something more well-produced and thoughtful, go watch their video. I'm going to do my best to practically explain how this works and play around with it with y'all live as someone who isn't part of the Bun team, but is admittedly friends with a lot of them and also an investor, so account for the bias. Anyways, their TLDR of the changes are that they made a lot of progress towards node compatibility. They have a built-in S3 object API, which is fascinating. They're now competing with us with Upload Thing. They now have a built-in Postgres client. Very interesting. It's also been interesting to see Jared realizing how much slower Postgres is than MySQL as he's been working on this. And Bun install now uses a text-based lock file. Thank God. I was so annoyed about Bunlock. Once you've been PNPM pilled and you realize that you can diff your lock file, so if two people have two branches that are installing different packages, you don't get a conflict when they merge together. That is so good. You would have to nuke the lock file every time there was a conflict. And now, theoretically, you don't have to. Fuck yeah. And everyone's still using Express for some reason. Cool. It seems like Bun is doing a better job maintaining Express than the Express team is. Yeah, I'm on Fastify now when I need an actual JavaScript backend. But Hano's cool too. Don't use Express. Every other option is better now. They didn't even mention the bundler part here too. What? They missed the coolest thing. We'll get to that as well. I'm surprised it's not on that list. But first, node compat. One of the things that makes Bun different from other runtimes is that they're not trying to build a bunch of better APIs and leave behind Node. Their goal was always 100% compatibility with all of Node's everything. So you can take any package written for Node using their built-ins like zlib, fs, etc., and make them all work in Bun without having to change anything about those things. So what they do for measuring compatibility is they run the Node test suite on Bun. And as of now, they are passing a very, very large percent of the tests. The fact they're doing 90% of FS, which is one of the weirdest modules ever, is a huge achievement, and I'm pumped that they pulled that off. That's unbelievable. The S3 stuff's really cool. If you haven't deployed S3 stuff with JavaScript yourself, you might not know how cursed so many of the layers are. There's a reason we built Upload Thing, which if you somehow haven't been around enough to know about it, Upload Thing is the easiest way to add file uploads in a safe, full stack way to applications built with things like Next.js. You add a function in the backend, you mount a component on the front end, and then everything just works and you don't have to worry about all the weird edge cases. And when I was talking with the Bun team about those edge cases, they didn't know about most of them because they're only focused on the server part where the server sends a file to S3 or they generate a pre-signed post URL they send to the user to then send to S3. There are a bunch of edges that aren't solved there, but you don't need the Amazon SDK anymore, which is a huge win. The full AWS SDK is massive. Even if you just get the S3 part, it's over 3.5 megs of JS, but there's a lot of other parts that you'll often end up needing to grab. And the only reason this doesn't destroy AWS APIs on things like Lambda is that they will pre-bake the whole AWS SDK into the Lambdas with the code already JITted so that it doesn't feel as terrible as it is. But the AWS SDKs are massive. They meaningfully restrict the places you can run stuff that connects to AWS. They're awful. The SDK is so bad. It is if you don't think the AWS SDK is bad, you're not building serious enough things with it. You will always run into weird bullshit with it. It is horrifying. With Bun, you don't need to bring in an SDK to upload to S3. Since S3 is a standard, it has become cloned by a ton of things like cloud storage from Google, R2 on Cloudflare, and a bunch of other things. Building an S3 solution into Bun means you don't need an SDK or a custom package to do things with those platforms. And obviously, it's really fast and really minimal. They did some testing. It is up to 5 times faster to upload files directly on your backend using their solution than the client S3 package with Node. Hilarious. Genuinely. Could be very, very useful for a few things that we're working on for upload thing. I think this is awesome. It's making it so you're less likely to need upload thing, but not a lot less likely because it doesn't solve the problem of when the user gets a pre-signed post and they upload the file to S3, how does your server know when it's done? Oh, it doesn't. That sucks. Yeah, there's a lot of problems that this won't solve for you, but it will make your uploads faster and it will let you escape the shit show that is that SDK. And now we have the Postgres support. If you didn't know, at launch, Bun had a SQLite client that was really, really fast. They wanted to make Bun.SQL do more than just SQLite. Postgres is the most popular database, so obviously that's what they rushed out. They want to get MySQL in, which makes sense. It's the fastest version of a giant SQL database. Postgres works. You all don't like when I talk about Postgres, so we're going to move on. I will say that their implementation is very fast compared to other Postgres implementations. Optimizations stack like buffs in World of Warcraft. Great copy. Looks like it's pretty drop-in to move off of Postgres, the package, to Postgres from Bun. Cool to see. Bun is also a package manager, and the lock file being binary was really annoying. As called out here, unlike other package managers that use text-based lock files like JSON or YAML, binary lock file allowed us to make Bun install almost 30 times faster than NPM. However, we found that there were a lot of paper cuts when using a binary lock file. First, you couldn't view the contents of the lock file on GitHub and other platforms, which sucks. What happens if you make a pull request from an external contributor that changes the Bun lock B file? Do you trust it? Probably not. That's also assuming there isn't a merge conflict, which for a binary lock file is almost impossible to resolve, aside from manually deleting the lock files and running Bun install again. I am so thankful they caved on this. And the new lock option has a custom flag that you have to use for it, I guess, which is a little annoying. It's JSON-C, which is JSON with added support for comments and trailing commas. Yay! I hate that JSON won't do trailing commas or comments. I'm happy that they are using a JSON thing that is less insane. Makes it much easier to view diffs, yada yada. Bun will continue to support the old files, and they will for a long time. I was about to ask, how much slower is it? You might think after we migrated to text-based files that Bun install would be slower. Wrong. Most software projects get slower as more features are added. Bun is not one of those projects. We spent a lot of time tuning and optimizing Bun so we could make Bun install even faster. And now it's even faster than 1.1, despite being JSON-C. This is a fun one. If you didn't know this, since you can't do comments or trailing commas or a bunch of other things in JSON, if you leave a comment in a package JSON, it just won't work. I don't know if you can even publish the package if you have a comment in the package JSON, which is absurd, genuinely. When Rob Palmer, who's on a lot of these web standards committees, did a poll asking what the ecosystem would want the path to solve this to be like, it was very clear what people wanted was to just allow it in package JSON, not to add a new fucking type of JSON file. Just let us do it in package JSON. And now Bun will let you. I am concerned that this will break things like publishing packages, but I'm thankful more of the ecosystem is starting to do this. And they even call out, use it at your own risk. Awesome. I didn't know they didn't have npm-rc support. Cool, they do. That means you can use custom registries, which is super helpful. Bun run filter is very, very nice. When you want to run on multiple workspaces at once, huge, makes mono repos better. Ooh, this is great. Bun outdated to tell you which packages are out of date. Bun publish, really cool to have that built in. Patch package. Yes, I didn't know they added this. They added a way to patch packages. So if you have a package that has some small thing that's annoying you, you can just go edit it in the node modules and then run bun patch commit that package. And now you've saved that change to the package. And whenever you run bun install, it will update the package with the diff that you made. Very helpful if you have some dependency that's doing things slightly different than how you want. The fact that the dot update is insane. This is huge. And now for the thing I am most excited for. Bun is a JavaScript bundler. This needs a diagram. What is bun? This is not as simple as a question as something like, what is Node? Node is a server-side runtime for JavaScript. It is a way to run JavaScript on a server, as well as a set of packages and libraries that solve a lot of the things you might want to do on a server. Bun is not just that. Obviously, Bun is a drop-in node replacement runtime. But that's just one of the three things I would say Bun is. Bun is also a package manager. Node isn't. Node has NPM, which is a package manager that was built separately from Node. But Bun is also a bundler, which means it can transform some JavaScript into other JavaScript. That's why you can just bun run a TypeScript file and it works, because it is bundling that TypeScript file. It is compiling it into JS and then executing it. Bun is all of these things. But from my experience, people have only been using the package manager side. I've seen a lot of people using that, but they're only replacing NPM and PNPM with Bun. They are not replacing Node with it, and they are certainly not replacing Vite or Webpack or any of those other tools with it. A big part of why they weren't is because the bundler side was rudimentary. It was very, very simple. You gave it a starting point for a JS file, and it would go down the import tree and try to make a bundle to come out the end. And it did okay. But it was very, very minimal, not very customizable, and it was missing a lot of the things you need for like bundling for web. You couldn't just have an HTML file that pointed at a JS file and get it to output the right thing. Now you can. Part one, we now have HTML imports in Bun. So you can pass an HTML import to the static option in Bun serve. So if you have a bun.serve, static / is the homepage, then you can have async fetch to handle API requests or whatever. And now this can just be an HTML file somewhere. And you were able to import it directly into your JS code and it does what it's supposed to. That's so cool. And if your index.html file has these references to like reset styles, these other files, it will, when it's imported, compile that out to be a reference to a hashed index and a hash.js file for the CSS and JS equivalents. And it will bundle the CSS that's being imported and the JS that's being imported to make it the right thing. Super, super cool. I have to try this quick. I can't not. I'm going to put them in source because I like doing that. Dashboard.html, index.html. We'll let Cursor do it. Generate a minimal homepage for a demo. Generate a minimal example dashboard page for a demo. Make sure it matches the styles in index.html. Bun run start. Oh, they don't do scripts. This is my like smallest annoyance with Bun. They don't give you scripts by default, so I have to do that. It works now. They should have a -- watch though. Cool. Bun run dev. Oh, I didn't change the import path because I'm stupid. Source / and look at that. Dashboard and home. No time spent compiling at all. It just instantaneously things happen. Let's see if I change something in the HTML, how quick it updates. Please subscribe. Pressing save now. Oh, doesn't have hot reload by default, at least for the HTML part. That's sad. Client-side hot reload isn't wired up yet, but it will be in the future. Cool. Thank you for being honest with it. But it isn't just static HTML, so don't worry. You can use it with React code too. In this example, imported /public /dashboard.html. Dashboard.html imports a TypeScript file, source frontend TSX. And then that's traditional React code. They have separate styles and an app TSX that's imported. And just from this backend file that serves a static route and then has API responses and requests it can handle, you now have a full stack backend and front end without having to do any weird config at all. There is zero config for any of this, which is really cool. No plugins, no weird files that say this is here and this is there. It's just the import tree, because your backend should have to import your front end if it's serving it. So you import the HTML file. The HTML file imports the things it needs, and then those import the things they need. Your import tree now actually can describe how things work. And that is huge because we all have some amount of tooling fatigue. I have spent way too much time in Turbo Repo, TSUp, and all the other things to bundle JS into weird shapes and packages. Being able to just import an HTML file and have everything work how you expect is unbelievable and actually really, really cool. You can also turn on development true, not as a config flag, just as an option in bun.serve, because you don't need config for any of these things. It's really convenient. They do have plugins if you want them for things like Tailwind. I actually do want to try this. Bunfig.toml. I can't believe they used bunfig, but they turned down bun time for the runtime. I feel so scammed. The Tailwind plugin is built in and is actually really good. You have to import in the HTML still, so we'll do that really fast. Redo these styles with Tailwind. Don't use a style tag. Accept. Thank you, cursor, for making this way easier. Now we have no style tags in here, just traditional Tailwind on our elements. We're still running it in dev. I'm curious actually to see if I have to restart or not. I can't find package bun plugin Tailwind. Okay, it's getting a bunch of random Tailwind properties and things in here, but it does not appear to be compiling in the Tailwind classes being used in that HTML file. Annoying. The quick TLDR of what is broken, which will probably be fixed by the time this video is out, is if you are importing using the Tailwind CSS keyword, the CSS does make it to the browser, but for some reason, the Tailwind parser that has to go through, see the class names you're using, and then put them in the CSS, it doesn't work. So this is still getting Tailwind's default stuff into the browser, but it isn't getting your class names in. You can tell because when I do it this way and we load the page, there is no styling at all. There's no default nav style, H1 style. H1, if it wasn't loading Tailwind, like if I just comment this out, you get this. This is without Tailwind at all. This is with unparsed Tailwind, where it is using Tailwind CSS, but it isn't adding the class names for the things we have here. Now it is doing things properly. That is a bug in Bun. That is not me importing the wrong thing. That is Bun not reading the class names from this file when you name this with their helper that does get the CSS to the browser, but this prevents this file from being parsed right now. It is a small bug. I am sure they will fix it. I just need you guys to know that there is a difference here in what is being parsed, not the CSS making it to the browser, because I have seen a lot of really dumb comments where people just don't seem to understand what's going wrong here. Now it is fixed. Cool. And the client reload wasn't working. That was just me refreshing by hand. We get the idea. Bun's bundler works. There's a couple things here with the Tailwind thing. It's clearly the part that's the most new and least ready, so to speak. But how cool is it that without having a crazy config file, a bunch of other stuff in my code base, this is all we have here: a git ignore, a bun lock, a bunfig, an index.ts that imports from HTML files, no config for any of that, and then a package JSON and a boring TS config. That's great. This is really cool. Needing that little to get shit done is awesome. It'd be cool if the bunfig wasn't necessary and that it would detect when you import Tailwind to do it, but I get why they can't go quite that far. Overall, holy shit, this is a very promising new way of bundling, because not trying to replace every single piece we're used to, they're trying to throw them all away and let your import tree be how the bundler behaves. That's it for the core bundler pit with the HTML imports, but there are other cool changes. One that I'm excited about, standalone executables. This is a very useful feature if you want to give somebody a .exe that they can run on Windows. There's a viral post. Please, can I have a fucking exe? A, I don't fucking care about the intricacies of programming in the same way that you don't, and shouldn't have to care about the intricacies of my work. B, it's your job to make the program usable, not mine. If you were writing novels rather than code, it would fall to you to produce a novel I can read, understand, and enjoy. Otherwise, i.e., if I still have to put everything together, you'd at best compile a dictionary, not a novel. C, I get that some geeks might want to enjoy the added benefit of compiling themselves. Me, personally, I don't give a shit, and I never will. Please, can I just have a fucking exe? This is one of my favorite posts ever because it shows how much like the AI brain rot has resulted in normies lurking GitHub thinking it's going to work the same way as the Microsoft App Store. Yeah, this post will forever haunt me. It's the funniest thing I think anyone's ever posted in the dev world. I'm new to GitHub and I have lots to say. I don't give a fuck about the fucking code. I just want to download the stupid fucking app. Make an exe file and give it to me. These dumb fucks think everyone is a developer. Yes, it is a platform for developers. It is. These posts are so funny and so entertaining for me. And people are coming to the GitHub subreddit to complain that a tool for developers is for developers is my favorite thing ever. But because there are these fucking people that don't have the brain cells or the interest in dev enough, if you build an app with Bun and you would like to give it to somebody who relates to the person whose posts we just read, bun build -- compile will spit out an exe instead of spitting out a TypeScript or JavaScript file. Hilarious. I think this is very useful for a handful of cases. It is certainly not for everyone or for everything, but the fact that you can now build an exe for Windows, give it a custom icon, tell it to hide the console, and just hand it to someone and it should just work, that's a nice win. That's a cool thing. Bytecode caching is really nice. It means that the code that your JavaScript turns into can be stored and reused so that it takes less time to spin up. Very nice. CommonJS output's an interesting feature. I know there's a lot of weird CommonJS versus ESM stuff that Bun does. Cool that they support that. Better CommonJS detection because they let you do both in the same files, which is hard. They're getting better at it. The plugin API is getting better. They have an on before parse, which seems pretty powerful. That's cool. You can inject system environment variables into the bundle when you build. That is very, very cool. If you use Next.js, you know you can do next_public, and then those env variables end up in the bundle. Now with Bun, it's just a config. So nice. Oh, this is so underrated. Banner and footer. This feature is very, very powerful for very specific things. It's useful for putting licenses on top and below of your files. Cool, awesome. This is kick ass for adding use client on top of all of the components that you're exporting from your package for people to put into their code bases in React. Super, super handy. Embedded files lets you see all the files embedded in your standalone executable. Niche, but cool. A lot of fun, interesting things there for the bundler. One of my favorite things, it's a bit more exciting, is the CSS parser. They looked at Lightning CSS, which was built in Rust and is probably the right way to do CSS bundling nowadays. It is quickly becoming the standard. Tailwind v4 literally just dropped today. It has been fully built on top of Lightning CSS, like from scratch. All the old Tailwind, like post CSS bullshit's been thrown away in favor of this one dependency, and it's awesome. But it's in Rust, and Bun does not love Rust. They are very much a Zig team, and they wanted something that interfaced exactly how they liked with Bun. So they used Lightning as a reference and effectively rewrote it from scratch in Zig. Pretty cool. Wild project. I know there's some controversy, like the Lightning CSS team wasn't super happy to see their work being copied in that way. It's open source. Welcome to this world. I think it's fine. Annoying that became a drama. I think it should be understood as an appreciation, whatever. But it means that you can just import things in CSS and it works. So you can have other CSS files like foo and bar and then add import them and it will compile out and work how you expect instantly. Huge. Awesome. It makes your CSS way more scalable without introducing a bunch of weird syntaxes and other bullshit things. You can even import CSS in JS now. And now when that import tree is being hit, it'll make sure all the CSS gets bundled and embedded in the right places, which makes a lot of sense if you have HTML on top. Awesome. They're also adding fun new APIs, which aren't node compatible. They're their own thing. Some of them are really nice, like serve. Just having the ability to serve a decent HTTP endpoint. It feels a little expressy, but in a pretty convenient way. And having static routes that will be compiled and just always return the right thing, super, super nice. Static routes are up to 40% faster than doing it yourself in the fetch handler. The response body headers and status codes are all cached in memory, so there's no JS allocation or garbage collection. That is huge. The fact that a static page might need to be loaded into memory and then assigned a value and then sent to the user, this can now be handled at comp time using all the fancy things that Zig and Bun enable so that you don't need JavaScript to be hit at all when you're serving a static asset. They had UDP sockets. Cool. Nice to see. Bun.file has gotten a lot better. They now have delete, which is scary but nice. They have stat that gets you a lot of info about files. Actually very, very handy. Support for S3 files, and you can do things with those. So you can link a file that's in an S3 bucket or an S3 compat bucket, and it just does the right thing. That's so cool. Bun.color, super, super handy to have colors for things like outputs, transforms from this to CSS. This is really, really cool, actually. It's cool they added that. DNS prefetch, super handy. So if you know what URLs your app might go to, you don't have to wait on a fetch for it to hit the DNS to get the IP address for it. You can do it on startup, and now future lookups will be immediate. That's really, really cool. I don't know anyone else doing that. Ooh, bun inspect table. That's super convenient. I like that a lot. It's similar to console table, but it returns a string rather than printing to the console. That's actually real nice. So you can get that as a string and use it for other shit, like rendering it in the browser. I like that a lot. Finally, a good UUID function built in. Nice. It's V7, not V4. I know that's controversial. SQLite client had some improvements. Ooh, tracking changed rows. Handy. The big int, not really a SQLite thing, so cool that they added that anyways. Here's a fun one. I saw them demoing this. I didn't think they were going to make it in, but compile and run C from JavaScript. Here we have C code, include standard IO and standard lib, and random TS, import CC from bun FFI. You give it the source, give it symbols, and now I can run a C function in my JS without even having a build step. Why the hell would you want this though? Well, for advanced use cases, or when you care a lot about performance, you sometimes need to use system libraries from JS. Today, the most common way to do this is by compiling an NAPI add-on using Node.jip. I hate Node.jip so much. Most Node devs do not understand how horrible Node.jip is because most Node devs haven't built crazy system embedded solutions on top of Electron. I was working on a tool at Twitch called Twitch Studio, which was an Electron app that was a clone of OBS that was rough enough that most of us on the team still used OBS. They have fully killed it. They don't recommend it anymore. I don't even think it'll be in here anymore. Yep. Twitch Studio is dead. Good. That was the wrong project for Twitch to build, and I'm happy that they kind of accepted it. But Twitch Studio used to be an Electron-based desktop app using React and a ton of crazy native C++ code, and the binding between those through JIP was hell. I have a lot of gripes with Node.jip, and I'm not the only one. If you've seen Ryan Dahl, the creator of Node's video, The 10 Things I Regret About Node, the thing that he revealed Dino in, Node.jip was one of the biggest complaints he had. Not good. I hate it. I am so thankful that you can do things that normally suck, like embedding C code, without having to use a terrible dep like Node.jip. That is a good thing. They do it by embedding a C compiler called TinyCC. TinyCC can compile really, really fast, like milliseconds, which makes it possible for Bun to compile your C code on demand without a build step. Using the Bun FFI APIs, you can compile and run C code from JS. Here's an example project that uses the NAPI to return a JS string from C code. That's pretty cool. So the NAPI, which is Node API header here, passes something from the environment. And now you can access it, write this string, return it. And in here, we can receive arguments as symbols back and forth. Now we call this, we get a response. That's so cool. That's so cool that this just works now. They also added import attributes, which is really nice. You can, when importing JSON, say with type JSON, text with type text, TOML if you want to import that for some reason. Very handy. Ooh, using got added. Using's a very interesting thing in JS. Watch my upcoming features in JS videos. I talk about this a lot over there. Promise with resolvers, really, really nice. Promise.try, finally. Error.isError. God, I hate that this wasn't a thing for so long. Very nice to have this. Bunch of other nice JS features. Oh God, iterator helpers. Finally. I was actually annoyed not having those in Bun before. Very nice they added them. Also some useful web APIs like text decoder stream, streaming from fetch. Essential. Actually essential. I've been doing a lot of streaming stuff with T3 chat because when you send a message on something like T3 chat, streaming is nice because you see the updates as they're happening instead of having to wait for the whole response to generate on the server and then send it down. Very, very nice to have that. And it's cool that it's being added on almost every layer of all the tools we use because everything supporting streaming means everything can do a lot cooler stuff. Exciting. I was going to write more about Bun's performance, but I got distracted watching Theo's YouTube videos. Tried to unsubscribe once, but the button was literally broken. Guess I'm stuck watching his hot takes forever. Not that I'm complaining. X's literally broken video titles. What? Good old Claude hallucinating away. Think you get the idea. One last fun call out. They're hiring. If you're down to work in person in SF and you're interested in all the crazy stuff that they're doing and you're down to work in Zig every day, they're a really cool place to work. I think that mostly covers the cool things going on with the new Bun release. I know it's a dot update. I did not expect it to be this big, but it is making Bun more compelling than ever. And I think it's a clear insight into where Bun is going and what the long-term goals are to solve all of the problems we have with our JavaScript tooling ecosystem. Let me know what you guys think. Until next time, peace nerds.